Guys, this is Angad, and this is gonna be the post-match analysis of Liverpool versus Spurs. I have a new board now, sort of expanded, taking into some of your comments into account as well. Gotten a bigger board to explain the game today. So this is the squad that they started with. The green is Spurs, and the red is Liverpool. Pretty easy to understand. So Spurs were Loris as a goalkeeper, with Tongan, Sanchez, Dembele, Dyer in midfield, Trippier on the right, Davies on the left, Son, Ali Eriksen and Kane. And Liverpool were Van Dijk, Lovren, Arnold, Henderson, Chan, Milner, Salah, Firmino, Mane. So sort of similar formations in a way. I'll get to that on this side. And so the game was pretty amazing to watch. Completely bonkers towards the end. You know, Liverpool went up quickly. They went up 1-0 quickly. Spurs, as they usually do in away games, they started slowly. They do that many times and they get punished for it. And Liverpool scored. Liverpool were pressing really well. I'll get to that as well. And Liverpool at Anfield especially are a force to reckon with. They press a lot. They press quickly. They start off quickly. That's why when Spurs started slow, huge alarm bells for them. I think in the first half, Liverpool had quite a few chances as well. Salah with a great goal in the beginning, and also his second goal was absolutely brilliant. He's been the best signing of the season for me in this transfer in this whole season, in the summer transfer window especially, and that's coming from a United fan. So I take that with a pinch of salt as well. All right, so the first goal, to explain that, let's talk about the pressing. So the red is Liverpool. So basically, what their tactic was, to make sure that Spurs are not able to pass out from the back. So essentially, like if Lloris passes the ball to Sanchez over here, you would have, let's say, Firmino press here. You have Mane standing over here. You have Salah over here. So what this effectively does is, if the ball comes back here, it goes here to this player, right? So, and this is Chan, and this is Dyer. So if you, especially from a goal kick, Spurs tried to pass out from the back, you see Chan would always go cover Dyer. Automatically, if Dyer moves in here, gets the ball, Chan would be in here. So the best pass he's got is over here. Of course he can pass here, but they're all being covered. So it's not going to be that easy. It's just making it really harder, right? And Liverpool likes to press in numbers, so even if he goes here and he stays here, he can go here. The ball comes here, he can press here, he can press here, he can press here. So Liverpool make sure that they attack the ball from any side they go. So it makes it really hard for Spurs for them to pass out. Now, this pressing strategy by Liverpool is Klopp has been using it throughout his time at Liverpool, and it works really well for him, especially against big sides, because bigger sides, top 5 sides, want to press out from the back as well. So Liverpool's pressing tactics work, especially when they get a goal, because that sort of gives them more energy to press. However, as we see throughout the game, in the second half, Liverpool players naturally got tired because it's not so easy to keep pressing, and Spurs eventually had more possession, were able to dominate and eventually do well. So the first goal just comes by, it's basically a mess up by Dyer. The pressing sort of pays off with Firmino, who I think is very underrated as a forward in the Premier League. He presses so well. I think he's probably the best forward in the Premier League at pressing, highly underrated in my opinion. So the ball is pumped forward. He's pressing Sanchez, who doesn't clear the ball really well, comes back out here, and so you have Dyer, who's also being pressed, makes a bad pass, which lets Salah was over here, so he makes a bad pass, which lets Salah to go on to goal. It's basically a mistake from Dyer. Not much to analyze there, except that Liverpool were pressing really well, and that led to the goal eventually. Where did this guy come from? Yeah. Alright, so we move on, and Spurs, as you can see, they have 2 in midfield. This is really narrow, so one big problem for Spurs was width, right? So the only width they had was basically from the fullbacks, Trippier and Davies. Mane was doing actually a really good job at tracking back. Mane was doing a really good job. Salah was not doing bad as well. And especially that when when he had the chance as well, they would all press together whenever possible. Against Man United, if you watch my video, which is Spurs versus Man United, if the red is Man United, you have Matic playing here, you have Eriksen coming in deep and effectively forming a 4v1 in many cases, because while Lingard is trying to do his best, Pogba's trying to do his best, they're really just wandering around in that game. So, however, in this game, because Liverpool had three midfielders, right, they could counter. So whenever these two would try to dominate, they're basically all covered by these three. Even if Eriksen tries to drop deep, Ali tries to drop deep, they're all covered. And Son, Eriksen, and Ali, they're all pretty narrow, which leaves only the fullbacks to give width, which gives a lot of space over here. So if Liverpool win the ball back in transition, let's say he moves forward here, he loses the ball here, he can pass over here, and they're bang right in the transition, same here, because the fullbacks are higher up the pitch. Now, it's not so easy for Liverpool to constantly keep pressing. So, as you saw in the game, because Spurs sort of move in here and are more dominant, they had more possession. Salah, while he tracks back, they're not going to make a back, they're not going to turn into a back six, because this is what Mourinho does, especially when he goes away from home, which is what everybody calls him, defensive, right? So, that kind of makes it much harder for Liverpool to keep continuing the pressing throughout the game. And because they just got the one goal and they had chances, Salah had some moments, Mane had some moments, and they didn't convert. So because of that, Spurs were dominant in possession, but in first half, I think they didn't really threaten Liverpool too much. Lovren and Van Dijk in general had a good game when it comes to balls coming in from Trippier or from Davies. So they had a pretty decent game in my opinion, to head the balls out from all the crosses coming in. Now we move on to second half. It pretty much continues the same way, with Spurs dominating possession, with Liverpool sort of dropping a little bit deeper, and so even though they're dropping deeper, they have themselves covered, right? So let's move that here because they were dropping deeper. Firmino about here. So because of sort of more down 5, we sort of 4 over here, and fullbacks pushed up, Spurs were able to retain more possession in the game. However, in the second half, a couple of things changed. So Dyer here was taken off for, I think, anyways, I don't remember so much. So Dyer came off for Lamela, thank you. Dyer came off for Lamela, and what ended up happening was Eriksen, right? He switched over here. So he dropped deep, he came off for Lamela, who moved, I think was here. So Ali moved towards the right. Actually, they were kind of all switching, so kind of hard to say who was where. But this was their front three, and Dembele was given more license to move forward. Eriksen was given more license. So what they did in second half, the formation basically remained the same, but they sort of got more attackers, more attacking-minded players onto the game. Llorente in the end. They also changed Dembele for Wanyama, who scored the cracker goal. But because Eriksen dropped deep into central midfield, he was able to control the game a bit better, and that sort of made Liverpool drop deeper into their half, right? And only sometimes Salah and Firmino eventually were left up top because Mane was taken off for Oxlade-Chamberlain, effectively making it a 4-4-2. This is what happened towards the second half. The goal from Wanyama, essentially because they were dropping deep, the ball came out here, cross in here, Karius hit it out here, and it was just a beautiful goal from Wanyama, who got because they were all dropping deep here, a lot of space for Wanyama to cut in, and a beautiful goal from inside there. So that was 1-1. And Spurs were dominating at that point, slightly worried about the game. Harry Kane got a penalty. Now, but the penalty, the linesman, Lovren touched the ball on the way to the goal, which made Kane was initially offside. But because Lovren touched the ball, he became onside, and then Karius had to come out to counter Kane, and that's how he got the penalty. That's why it was onside. You can hear the video recording very clearly, but the linesman is talking about is saying if Lovren touched the ball, Harry Kane is onside, which is what was the case, and that's why it was given a penalty. We all know what happened. Harry Kane missed, and eventually the game just moved on in this way, with Spurs being more dominant. Mohamed Salah with a brilliant piece of skill to beat 3-4 players, absolutely Messi-like. What a goal, brilliant goal, 2-1. You had Klopp celebrating like mad, and eventually another penalty. Again, same, Spurs essentially applying pressure from everywhere they could really. They were all inside the box, all near the D, crossing in. Liverpool taking in the pressure. Salah and Firmino were always up top, though Firmino would come back a bit. Salah was always outside to counter in the game. If you can see how deep Liverpool are, Spurs are pressing in, because Liverpool were literally hanging on even after 2-1, even after 1-0, even after 1-0. That allowed sort of more balls into the box. I think Spurs had over 60% possession in the second half. And, that Van Dijk eventually fouled and gave a penalty away, which Kane converted for his 100th Premier League goal, and that's how the game ended. So all in all, a super cracking game, a 2-2 game. This is my analysis, the first time using a board. I practiced a little bit, but I'm gonna get better at this. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. On Twitter is Angad_red. I'm giving more updates during the game on my Twitter feed. You can check it out. I posted some pictures on my Facebook as well, so you can check that out as well. And all these videos are going to be also uploaded on YouTube if you want to watch it that way. I'm also going to be releasing a podcast very soon. Thinking of making a weekly podcast covering all the news, football news from Man United and football in general. I'm a United fan, so the content will be slightly sort of heavier towards Man United. So this was my post-match analysis for Liverpool versus Spurs. A great game. It's about 4:40 a.m. here in Japan. This is Angad, and I'm signing off. Take care. Cheers.